Guess what, Rachel?
What?
We have such an incredible show today. I am so excited for our guest. He is from the band, the Verve Pipe. Back in the 90s, they had quite a few hits. Not only that, but he just sailed on the Creed of Summer of 99 cruise, the team cruise. They had all the 90 bands. Unbelievable. Brian is a great songwriter. Even his solo stuff is just so good. And he does these albums as well that are like cover albums. I could keep going, but we should be really talking to him.
I know. Let's talk to him.
Brian Vander Ark. And Rachel, what do we need to tell everybody to do each week?
I'm hoping they already did. Smash that subscribe, ring the bell, send out the fireworks, because you do not want to miss any future episodes with these awesome guests.
Yeah, each week we're going to bring you another interview. It's going to be amazing because why? Because you guys are here tuning in. It's going to feature cruisers, cruise staff, and like we have today, celebrities. And this one is just, I'm excited because we're both musicians and we should just get right into it, right?
Yeah, I want to talk to them.
Let's go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show, Cruise Ship Explorers. We have an amazing guest. Who do we have, Rachel?
We have,
from the Verve Pipe.
Please. We have Brian Vander.
See, that wasn't even...
No, Brian Vander Ark. Of course. I was just starstruck.
See, I wanted to put her on the spot for a second because...
he usually introduces everybody because then I get like all the cheering and I'm the one that gets to get excited, okay?
Of course.
Come on, the Freshmen. Everybody knows that song. Multi-platinum success. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Brian, thanks so much. How you been? You been good?
I've been great.
I see that you're touring all over the place, and the career since the Verve Pipe, and I know, and this is a question that I have because I'm trying to figure it out, watching everything that I see online, but the Verve Pipe is technically still together. You put the band, I was, going through some different members and stuff like that, but basically you still tour as that band, plus you tour as a solo career. Am I correct in that?
You're correct, yeah. My brother Brad and I formed the band back in 92, and we're still the original members. So other than us two, we've got three other musicians with us that have been with us for quite some time. So we're a super tight unit. We're a family. That's why we like to tour so much and spend so much time together, believe it or not.
No, that's awesome. And I love the fact that you're still doing it. You're still actively out there doing it. You're putting music out constantly. A lot of people in this business, just in general, kind of give up, if they feel they can't keep it going. But we love seeing people, just like actively doing it because, A, it's good for the soul, obviously. But it's good that your career, just continues to evolve. I followed your career from back in the 90s, big fan of the band. And then, the solo stuff that you've been putting out, I've been listening to as well. What motivated you to switch gears and go into putting out some solo stuff?
I want to address the first thing that you were mentioning, that a lot of people do give up and don't create after a certain point. But I think those bands are the ones that are chasing the hit songs, and because genre changes over the years and conventional wisdom of what's a good song and what isn't a good song and what sounds like a hit and what doesn't sound like a hit, chasing that, you could chase it forever and be frustrated by it and just give up completely, which in my opinion is the wrong thing to do. What you should do is embrace who you are, what you have to say musically and lyrically, and continue to put out music just to stay creative, not necessarily to stay relevant, because a lot of these 90s bands, people will say, well, they're not really relevant anymore. They're just out there touring on their old stuff. And what we like to do is we've always loved to perform. And when we perform, if we get bored with our own stuff, we want new stuff to perform. And so we'll perform the new stuff. So that's why we're still in it.
Another thing, one thing I read on your website was that you embrace being uncomfortable. You're always seeking that next thing to be uncomfortable. And I think that speaks to what you said, where people get stuck. And you even did a children's album? I mean, that's just
we did 2 children's albums. Yeah, we did really well with the children's records.
Awesome.
The children's records, they went gangbusters because Sirius XM picked up a couple of songs. We had a song called Serial. And so we went out and did all these. We did Austin City Limits and Lollapalooza, but on the kids stages, in the early 2000s. So just trying to stretch out and have fun, writing in any genre, any way we can, just to enjoy ourselves,
Yeah, I mean, like even on your solo stuff, I have like some favorites there, When I'm Gone, Million Things, 2 songs I just think are so well written, for me. I just love listening to your writing. I think, you bring something different, I feel, every time you put out something new. And I know for songwriters, they get stuck in such a rut that they're trying to chase exactly what you said, that old hit sound that you had back in the 90s. Oh, I gotta create that. So I'm going to create that next hit. So let me do all the techniques we did in the studio. Right. Let me do it. Work. And it just doesn't, it doesn't work. And that's the nice thing, even for me, finding artists that are doing that, I just so appreciate it. Being a musician myself, I love watching that. I love the passion that goes into it. And I'm sure the people that come out and see you play really enjoy that as well. They watch you growing as a songwriter. Well, I think that's, and doing a children's at the house. Well, I think, that's amazing.
I think because, we are playing so much and there is the demand to see our live shows. The fact that we do that, we switch it up every night. We're not the band that waits for people or makes people wait till the end of the show and then not play the Freshmen until the encore. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. And the way I feel about it is if we have the stage and they're going to let us play for 2 hours, then we're going to play for 2 hours. We're not going to make you wait 2 hours for the one person or the handful of people that want to come just to see the Freshmen. We're going to play that in the first hour, but we're going to continue to play and enjoy ourselves. That's the whole point. And
I love that.
Being a live musician, that really is the only way that we can get that that gratification and validation as musicians who perform live by playing as much as possible. And that's what we do. That's why we do it.
And how did you come up with the concept of lawn chairs and living rooms? Is that's what it's called, right?
Cool.
Yeah, it was out of
tell us about that.
It was out of necessity. We weren't making any money. This was like 2008, 7. I had bought a house during the housing bubble, which was a terrible, terrible thing. Lost a lot of money on that. And I had a fan who just wrote me and said, "Hey, I wonder if you'd come play my birthday party." And I'm like, I'm kind of a rock star. I don't want to say birthday party.
Yeah. No, I get it.
That attitude. Yeah. And she's like, "I'll pay you so-and-so." And I was like, "What? That's crazy." So I went and did that. And then I went home and I thought, oh my God, I've got 10,000 people on my solo mailing list. They all have birthdays. That's like $25 million. I'm like, yes. So what I did was I sent an email out and I booked like 50 shows within 24 hours. So I did house concerts for 14 years. I did that Lawn Chairs and Living Rooms tour. And I would do 2 or 3 a day on Saturdays and Sundays. I'd go from one to the next just to reconnect with the fans. I've done over 800 house concerts. We figured out maybe 820.
What a great marketing thing. I mean, that's genius. That's so good.
And it was so great to be able to reconnect with all those fans that we had lost after, Villains, our big album came out. We had 1.5 million records that we sold. And I lost all those people because we didn't cultivate those connections. And so going back into their homes and meeting them and seeing where they live and being introduced to their kids and their family and their family's friends, that helped us exponentially gain a huge, really a loyal following, unlike the following of when you have a hit song.
Right. No, that's such a genius idea. I mean, it's not just a marketing thing, but it connects you, like you said, with your audience. And I think you get that one-on-one where you're not going to get that at, a stadium show. Sure. There's no way to connect like that.
I've always wanted to raise that curtain between the audience and the performer. I feel like there's no reason why a band should be isolated from the audience. I mean, You're out there performing for them. Why not just go out there and say hey to people at the merch table after the show? We had that experience on the cruise. All of the other bands, I don't want to throw any other bands on the bus.
No.
Those bands. But a lot of the other bands would hang out in the artist lounge the entire time. I'm like, guys, let's go to the main cafeteria and take some selfies
Absolutely.
and take advantage of this and talk to people. And that's what we did. And that's why that experience for us was amazing.
No, I love that. I love, we're fortunate enough with Rachel's career that we've met so many rock stars, she's got to build cars with them and do different things like that. But then you find that, they're so big in their life, but then when you see them talking to a fan and just being a regular person, or, even myself, just hanging out with Rachel and going to some of those things with her, and then I'm sitting by the sidelines and going, well, I want to talk to them about their career, but she's talking about this Ford F-150, right. And I'm like, yeah, I have no clue what she's talking about right now, what engine that is, but I'm not going to interrupt. That's what he loves, and they're just, people don't understand. They're just regular people.
Rock music and cars go together. I mean, you do have to talk about what engine you have, in your 69, Chevy, and you have to talk about what you're running in your Ford pickup truck. I myself had a 1973 Cuda and 1951 Ford F1 that I worked on. So it goes hand in hand.
Impressive. I tell you what, if I had the time to take with a classic car, that would be a hobby of mine, a great old muscle car. But honestly, I think that around, get to the gig, and I can't take those chances, unfortunately.
That's the thing. They're really awesome to look at, even the resto mods. And so people are like, oh, well, there's all new parts in there and it'll get me around. But you have to remember that there's parts in there that weren't meant to go with the car. Right. And so everything has to be custom, assembled and things. And so you're right. You want something that will get you to the gig, and usually that's not the most attractive means, but it gets the job done.
It's true.
Yeah, that's why we don't have one in our driveway. We have a new car that'll get us to point A to B,
that's
that kind of thing. So with the house concerts, do you have any memorable ones that, come to mind? You're like, oh my God, this one was amazing because of that.
I mean, the very first one was mind-blowing to me because, nobody was really doing house concerts in like 2007, 2008, that time. Not like it's become. But just the fact that I went into this venue, which was someone's home, and they had set it up like a little concert venue. They had 50 folding chairs for their family and friends, and then you look around and it's like, oh, there's family photos on the wall. There's fresh flowers and vases. It's like the nicest gig, nicest venue you can ever have. And you don't have to deal with a surly sound man or manager to get paid at the end of the night. You're actually dealing with people and fans who want you to feed you, and they want you to stay overnight. I would never stay overnight. Over that many times that I drew the line there.
It's like the Pee Wee Herman story where we just go loose and stay at people's houses,
Yes, couldn't quite do that. But that, that first one was probably the most memorable because that's what turned me on to the idea of doing these in a massive way.
No, and are you pretty active? Because I was looking at your tour schedule and it seems pretty active, just playing venues. Yeah. Are you trying to fit the house shows?
I do, yeah. I'm still, but not nearly not nearly as aggressively as it used to be. Now the focus is on the Verve Pipe, and if we're coming through a town somewhere and somebody sees it on our website, we're going to be in Portland, Oregon, and somebody in Portland hasn't seen a house concert, they'll reach out and I'll say, I have a day off. I'll do it on this day, and then I'll book it for that day.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I have to ask how you collaborated with Jeff Daniels. That's something that, is a wild... I know he plays guitar. Am I correct?
He's great. He's a great guitarist. He's a more blues-based guitarist. A lot of great solos. Got a good finger-picking style like I do. I really love the finger-picking. But Jeff saw a documentary that my friend made about the lawn chairs and living rooms concerts. And he got a hold of me through my agent and said how much he loved that. He's a Michigan guy as well. So we connected. That must have been 15, 16 years ago. We've been friends ever since. We put out an album together. We wrote a couple songs for a Verve Pipe record, wrote a song for a solo record. So he's a story guy, being an actor, reading so many scripts. He knows how to write a good story. And so if I had a song idea and I was like, I don't know where this should go, what should happen, in this song, he'll always have great ideas. Here's what you want to do, and I'll take his advice and make it a linear story. And it's been really helpful to be friends with him. Also, being a parent, he's like, the guy's an amazing parent. He's always got parenting advice for me. He lives in Chelsea, Michigan, on Chelsea Lake. And they've got a little Kennedy compound there where his kids are grown and they've got grandkids. They all live in that same area of the lake. And he's just such a great dad and he's a really good guy. Really great friend.
Yeah, you would think, just his career and then to hear the music side or even the writing side, you really don't put that together. And it's great hearing that. I love hearing that he can work with a writer like you. And it works well. You just never know who you can write with.
The funny thing about him, too, and what makes him an anomaly is that he's so super famous, and yet he's lived in Michigan for, I guess for his whole life. He's from Chelsea, so it's the same with me. I have no reason to leave or live anywhere else. I love it where I'm from, too, So it keeps us, I think it keeps us both humble.
No, and you know what? That's what we always say whenever we meet somebody and they're living in their hometown. They're not in Hollywood or any of the typical places. We just love seeing that, and there's something to be said about that. Keeping to your roots.
Yes.
I do believe it keeps you humble. And when you leave and you go out and do your thing, you come back and there's a sense about being home.
Well, yeah. Also, that's great for the creative process too, because you go to the familiar places. I'm in a familiar place when I write, and I don't have to worry about any extra activities that are going on. I did live in New York for a year and a half. I lived in LA for a while. Way too many distractions for writing. Way too many ways to spend money or get into trouble. If I lock myself up in my storage unit, here in Michigan and do my writing here, I get to the better song quicker.
So. Yeah.
And I also imagine there's a lot of things that you have experienced in your hometown that continue to drive the feel and the concepts behind your music. Whereas if you uproot, you don't have a long history with this place. And I can only imagine like in LA or New York constantly getting said, oh, come to this party. There could be producers. There could be.
Sure.
And I find a lot of that networking stuff, there are exceptions, ends up being a big hamster wheel of waste of time.
So true.
You could have taken that time to craft songs.
Yeah, it's so true. And a perfect example of that is our follow-up record to the Villains record, which had the Freshmen. We moved to New York. We lived there for a year and a half, and I had to write there with the band. And I could not get a grasp of my surroundings enough to really write and not try to be avant-garde because we're in New York, just be ourselves. Probably the least authentic record that we've ever put was that record. Now, there's some great songs on there, and I'll tell you, we worked with Michael Beinhorn, who's a genius. He did Super Unknown for Soundgarden, and I love the guy, and I thought he was fantastic. But honestly, I could not get to the place where I needed to get to until the next record when we went home to the Midwest and then we were in Chicago we belong,
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. I don't care what anybody says, and the distractions really, I think, play a big part in steering you away from your career a little bit.
Absolutely.
How about, for me, I stumbled upon this. I didn't even realize you had it, the cover album. A bunch of covers, and they're killer. I mean, do you do any of those in your shows?
My solo show, I do. Yeah, I don't typically do any of the solo material or the solo covers with the Verve Pipe, but my solo shows, I'll play some of those songs. My first gig, I was 16 years old when I was a lounge singer at the Holiday Inn bars. I would just sit up there and play acoustic guitar and play all these covers, but I would try to do my own versions of them. And that was the idea behind these two cover albums, was to do, Black Hole Sun, but do an acoustic version of it with a little bit of a different tuning, to do In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel on the acoustic guitar, and just prove that these songs are great songs regardless of the production. When you just strip it down to an acoustic guitar, you can play a song, and if it's a great song when the person wrote it on an acoustic guitar or piano, it's still a great song.
I think you and Rachel have something in common. So she covered Detroit Rock City. She's an electric violinist.
Yeah, I did too.
So she did an instrumental version of that, and it got so much traction. Kiss put it on their site.
I love it.
And, it was just like kind of a cool thing. But like for me, one of the things that attracted me, I've never seen anybody do this cover. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but your XTC cover. I mean, that's just I'm
a huge XTC fan though.
Me too. And not a lot of people, it's a shame. I think that record got worn out, but just stuff that you did on that, I think you had great picks.
Yeah, I have a connection with XTC in that I had the opportunity to write with Andy Partridge. So I went to Swindon and wrote with them for 3 days. We ended up writing an album for the movie The Avengers, which was the movie with...
Oh, wow.
Well, it wasn't the great big Avengers movie. It was the Avengers movie with Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman that came out.
Yeah.
It was in the theater for one afternoon, I think. But we wrote a song like that together, and I thought, I haven't talked to Andy in years. I'm going to see if he minds if I do that. Of course, he was all for it. So it's one of my favorites, too. Mayor Simpleton, such a great song.
Such a great song. Yeah. I'm glad you did that. I want to switch gears. Sure. I want to talk about the cruise stuff. Yeah. How did you feel? What was your initial reaction when you got invited to do that whole Creed Summer of '99 cruise, I think it was called, right?
My first reaction was, what? Creed is asking us to go on tour on a cruise with them. And my second reaction,
how's this working?
Second reaction was absolutely. Why not? So we, Creed was a little bit after our time, but I saw that Tonic, who we toured with for 2 years straight, Tonic was doing it, Vertical Horizon was doing it. So all these other bands that I knew, and I knew Creed a little bit. I'd met Scott a couple times. Seemed like a nice guy, but it was like we would not have missed this opportunity because we have not done a cruise before, and the chance to do two of them was amazing.
That's great. And have you personally ever been on a cruise before?
I went on a cruise. I was on the Rock Boat years ago, and I made the mistake of bringing a girlfriend and we were kind of on the outs anyway. I thought, well, maybe we could rekindle this thing. And
but you're stuck on a boat together.
I'm stuck on a boat.
You can't run anywhere.
I tried. Believe me, I tried. I hit as much as I could.
He was thinking of jumping. Is that wrong?
It's not that far a swim.
Exactly. But this cruise, the great thing about this for us was the fact that, again, I feel like we were kind of the underdog here. I don't think a lot of people were buying tickets to see us. So when you come...
to me, it was definitely like a kind of a cool bill because there was all these different acts. I think I don't know. I don't even know who put it together, but I think sorry to interrupt, but I think you kind of did. You fit in there and it made it for me, but that's my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, definitely we have the name recognition, but people hadn't seen us as much as they've seen the other bands, or Creed gets back together after how many years of a hiatus. That's a big deal. 3 Doors Down, they tour a lot. I've played with those guys a few times. But still, us and Louise Post, I feel like, and Jimmy's Chicken Shack, I feel like we were kind of the bastard kids on this thing. Like we, what I mean? We played the lounge stage, and then we played the atrium stage, and we played the couple of times the big stage. But so we didn't know what to expect. And after that first show, I was like, oh my God, we went over so well. And then again, we went to the main cafeterias. We hung out in the main areas. We took a ton of selfies. We met so many people that to this day, I would say at least 25% of the people that have been coming to our shows since the cruise are people that saw us on the cruise or they heard about us from the cruise. So it's been a huge boom for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, we love hearing those stories. We spoke to a band out of the UK that did the blues cruise with Joe Bonamassa, and it was the same thing. They're known in the UK and stuff like that, but there was bands that were bigger than them on the cruise. But they were like, we loved going to the lounges, hanging out, talking to the fans, signing whatever they want to sign, taking pictures, and the two guys, and it just, I think that makes it special for the people that are on the cruise versus where's my rock?
Well, that's what's going to make them. That's what's going to make them buy a ticket to your show and prioritize your show because they got to meet you on like a human level. And I can only imagine with some of these bands and your band, were people trying to find out what room were they in we gotta sneak down there and like knock on the door and stuff, like super fan club.
Yeah. We didn't have we had no weirdness. No, I mean, you think about that, but honestly, when you think about it in general, being a celebrity and just being out in general, people are very respectful most times. Once in a while, you get somebody who says something rude or something. And I'm old enough now that all that shit rolls off my back. It just doesn't even bother me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. We know exactly. I mean, when Rachel does some of the car shows and stuff like that, it's the same thing. You know, fans waiting in line. Yep. And she actually, the promoter for the show, she'll tell her, you know, don't go in front of the table. You got to stand in back and sign the autographs. I look around and she's in front of the table.
Oh no, I'm walking the show.
You know what?
I go out to their cars to look. I want to get your opinion on something. All right, let's walk. Come on, everybody.
It's the absolute same thing with us. Sitting behind a table with the 5 members of the band is so boring. And you're sitting there waiting and talking with each other, whatever. I would much rather, and usually do, just get up, go out front, talk to people, move along the line after the show. I won't sit behind the merch table for a structured thing. I want to talk to each person. Right. And plus, you get them moving along, too. So,
absolutely. Yeah, you're right about that. How about like performing on a cruise ship versus land? Did you find any challenges, like from anything from like sound,
fantastic
movement, or anything?
That cruise, those cruises were top notch. The people that ran it, the people that ran the sound, the lights, top notch. It was awesome every night. And we became friends with the crews, and we saw with the crews that worked the cruise, and we saw them out, you know. We just played a show in Woodstock, Georgia, great amphitheater, awesome show. And a couple of the guys that ran sound on the cruise were there. It's like awesome. And, and you know that you're in good hands then. So I will never worry about that again. Because I did think, well, what kind of rinky-dink operation is it going to be?
Exactly.
You know, in the some of the small stages. But they had everything nailed down perfectly.
That's awesome. And how about the atmosphere? Did you find the atmosphere to be different in the crowd?
I mean, you know, people have been drinking since, 8 a.m. So it's like, it's easy. That's a cruise, it's easy to go over. I mean, you're going to sound great no matter what, as far as these people are concerned. But, we would try to do some, we had to set ourselves apart. So, sometimes we would have the drummer go up and start the song, and then the rest of us would walk in playing from behind the crowd and go among the crowd. And people be like, what's going on? Oh my God, they're right here next to me, kind of thing.
That's
or we
awesome.
do a cappella stuff, sitting by the pool, you do an a cappella song and people gather around, because we can do the 4-part harmonies and stuff. So, I mean, I can't say enough great things about the cruise and how it gave us such a shot in the arm as a band.
I love hearing that because, people think, when they're going on these cruises, what are they going to get out of the entertainers? They're not sure. Yeah. And to hear and this is like, we've heard this from a few people that have performed on cruises. They just love it. And they said, from their perspective, it's all top-notch gear, engineers, all that good stuff. And the fact that they get to mingle with the audience in a different way. And they get to play some different shows. So they mix up their set list or, mix some things up. Because you do have a mixed audience and you have so many different bands. But people were, trying to see everybody. And did they have you play different events? Were you on a main stage, in a theater, in the lounges?
Yeah, we did.
How did all that work?
We did, the first cruise we did, it was like an atrium. It looked kind of like a mall setting. But, this was after we did our first Starlight performance, which was a huge theater. It was like 1,500 seats inside of the cruise, which is crazy. And we went over so well that by the time we did the atrium show, it was packed. There's 1,000 people packed in this atrium area to hear us. And from there, it just got better and better. So it's one of those situations where if it's a smaller stage, we would strip it down and we would do more a cappella stuff or we would do more acoustic stuff. But you could pretty much do anything you wanted. They had the equipment to let you do whatever you wanted to do. If we wanted to have 4 separate microphones set up so we could just do an a cappella song, we could do it. Anything we wanted to do, we could do. There were no restrictions. It really was the greatest gig. It was so fun.
And did you guys get to do any kind of different jams with different bands or anything like that?
We didn't do it. No, there was no as far as I could see in the bands that I saw, nobody really got up with each other. Everybody was kind of their own thing.
Interesting.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't want to, but you have an opportunity for an hour to really wow people that might not have seen you before. I think nobody really even thought of it. Like we've done so many times we played with Tonic and then we would do a Beatles song together and everything. But,
sure.
But the schedules were kind of weird because there was, we'd be on the same time. Tonic would be on another stage somewhere or all that. Yeah. So I don't think anybody really tried to coordinate it. Everybody just had a good time playing with their own band,
No, that's great. I mean, it reminds me of like the festivals, you have set times and you're on different stages. And it's tough to coordinate, hey, I want to jam with them, but we're on at the same time. So it's just not going to happen. Did you get to hang out with some of the other bands?
All the time. I mean,
and how was that reconnecting?
It was fantastic.
Do you stay in touch with bands like Tonic or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been in touch with those guys for, 25 years now. Vertical Horizon, same thing. We're all in touch on social media. We don't often get to see each other because unless you play a festival or a show with another band, you don't really get to go out and see bands because you're playing all the time.
Of course.
And quite frankly, you don't want to. When I'm home, the last thing I want to do is go to a club to see a band.
I get it.
If they're friends of mine, if Vertical Horizon comes into town, we'll go to dinner. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But I'm not going to go to your show.
No, I think
everybody's clear on that.
It's funny because, listen, the business is the business. Yeah. And when you want downtime, you want to do something a little bit different. Just chill and hang out and go to dinner and catch up.
Honestly,
and talk about kids or whatever you want to talk about,
right. Exactly right.
I know that some bands, we've run into them where, all they want to do is just talk about the old times and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, no, we're in the future, Let's talk about how's your family? How's this? Right. How's that?
Well, you can find out a lot of things. And what I'm most interested in for other rockers from my era is if they have families, how they're reacting to their kids, how their kids react to their fame. These kinds of things. This is invaluable information to get from other parents who have a similar life as you do. Like my kids could feel self-conscious about the fact that people stop me while we're just out having dinner together. These kinds of things. They don't want to be on display, So you have those kinds of discussions, and I'll talk to Emerson. I'll say, how do your kids feel about it? And say, my kids are fine with it or whatever. And so that's, it's just commiserating is what it is. Yeah. And commiserating about the music industry is not fun. It's just depressing.
No, it's funny. We just had a similar thing where we were out to dinner, and when we're not working just like you, we like to shut it off. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just chill. And so, I had looked up in the corner of my eye and I saw they're, playing one of the episodes of Rachel's show. And I was like, oh, this is going to happen. I'm telling you, somebody's going to come over. They're going to look at the TV, look at her, and thankfully it didn't happen. It's happened before, but we get that. All we want to do is just, her more than me, is just chill and just have a beer and some food and not have to talk about the work or that side of it. You just need that personal space a little bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you get up into when you get up into your 50s and 60s, you realize that the present is so much more valuable than worrying about the future or thinking about the past and regretting things. It's so much more important just to be present.
Yes, in the now and really enjoy the now. That is so true.
How about did you get to experience any of the I don't know how much downtime you had, but any of the amenities, like the food places, the pool, or any of that stuff on the cruise?
Not too much. We enjoyed our time playing and promoting more than anything, but also just being able to sit and escape for a couple hours with a book on the deck.
Yeah,
you know what great. I mean? On our own deck, in our room or whatever, by ourselves. Anytime you needed to get away, you could get away. And that was the nice thing too.
Right.
So.
And then for this cruise ship, I know some of the music-themed cruises don't have any stops. They basically leave out of a port. They do kind of like a circle or whatever and come back to port. And it's just about the music, the on-ship experience. What about this particular cruise? Did it stop anywhere? And if it did, were you able to even get off?
Oh, yeah. We went to the Bahamas twice. So, and I had been to the Bahamas once before. And the first cruise, I took a buddy of mine. He's the guy that filmed that documentary. He's an actor, director. He came with me. And the second time I took my daughter, Willow, who's over there. I don't think she wants to be on camera. But she came. Okay. She's 13, and she came on the cruise for the second one. And she had an absolute blast. And we went to the Bahamas and we swam and that kind of thing, too. So, no, there was plenty of time to enjoy, and a different place and atmosphere to enjoy other than just on the ship.
That's amazing. How about switching gears a little bit off of the cruise stuff? How did you get into your speaking engagements?
Yeah, so the speaking engagements, it was from one of the lawn chair shows. He worked for UBS, the big bank. And he said, your story is a really good story that might resonate with my people. We have a meeting coming up. Why don't you just tell your story about the rise of the Verve Pipe and then, what happened with the second and third album and just see how it goes over. And I did. And it went over great. And so I got the whole story together in a presentation with slides and stuff and made it super fun and funny and then play a couple songs. But I talk about reinvention and how you always have to be on top of reinvention because of the changing, especially the changing music industry. But you find also in the way that it resonates with business people is that there are so many changes in the financial industry constantly with new administrations that if you think outside the box, you're going to survive. And that's the whole idea with the speaking gig. So yeah, I do a lot of, it's crazy because I'll do, the Bank of America, corporate meeting, in the Bahamas, which is fantastic. Right. And I'll go up there and talk for 45 minutes and tell them my story. We'll get some laughs. I'll play some music. And then I get the heck out of there. And it's, honestly, it's corporate money. So it's like, it's fantastic.
Those
money.
Are the best.
Yeah, it's the best. And it's helped us survive the down times. It's helped us survive, the times where the guarantees aren't quite as much as they should be. I can still take that money from the corporate gigs and put it toward our new record. You know what I mean? These are practical uses for the money that that we need to make to survive. Absolutely. And not have to sign another record deal.
No, that's and then Kimberly,
which today record deals are tough. They're not like the record years of you guys you both are being kind with the tough word. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's the contracts now are
really. I mean,
if you can honestly, make it.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, if you can, if you are able to and have the infrastructure and support to be able to do it on your own, it is a double-edged sword because there are perks to being signed. Sure. There are, but again, you're also going to give up some stuff.
Back in the 90s, there were so many more perks to being signed. They weren't taking money from your concert tickets. They weren't taking T-shirt money. The label wasn't.
Right.
They would write you an enormous check to get out there. They would give you tour support so you could play all over Europe and have tour support each week. Those things don't happen anymore. And right now, I can tell you, financially, I'm much more secure with the way we're running our own business than I was back then. I make a much better living now than I made back then when we were signed to a record.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny if you think about that now? Like, it's times have changed.
So much.
And it's just, you look at the younger artists, not to sound old, but, we're old compared to the young artists. And the challenges that they have, and, you can break through, some do break through, but it is challenging.
Yeah, I have these conversations with young people all the time. The school, my daughter goes to School of Rock and takes lessons there, and I talk to people there. And, the fact is that kids don't have to worry about signing a record deal. The thing you got to do, you just have to go market yourself in the best possible way. Your songs, Correct. You're not going to make any money off your songs. Your songs are advertisements for your band. That's it. You're making a 3-minute advertisement for people to come see your band live. And once you get into that mentality and stop worrying about, can we get it on Sirius XM or can we get it here or there? Let all that shit go. Just be authentic, treat it like a business, look at the bottom line, take the gig if you can afford to take the gig, don't take the gig if you can't afford to take it,
Rachel, he's speaking your truth
speaking,
right there.
He's speaking to the converted, but he is speaking the truth. It's so true. I think like it is important to build up your social media numbers, but you have to have a plan for it, because if you can't monetize them, it's unsustainable. You're going to be able to do it maybe like 2 years. And I think one of the things I missed from the, just like the 90s bands and further back is that the concept of an album, because an album told a story, and not every song on there was a hit, but each album has its own unique personality that has been somewhat lost. And it's almost like musicians now, younger musicians are on this feast famine cycle where they put out a song, it gets them some numbers for a bit, but then it fades. Then they got to put out another one and another one. And so it's all about chasing that hit, which can easily veer people off the wrong path. And you're so right about using it as an advertisement to make money elsewhere, whether it be merch, whether it be shows, because really that's how you're going to make money now. You're going to, people overestimate how much they're going to make on Spotify and through Spotify streams. And that's just like pennies on the dollar.
We don't consider any of that, the streaming money to be substantial enough to even think about. Don't even think about it.
No.
Like I get the numbers and I'm like, wow, we had 100 million streams we just went over 100 million streams of the Freshmen, I think. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Didn't even look and see like, well, what have we been paid for this? When I get a check, from, for my Apple Music contribution, and I see that I had 4 million streams of the Freshmen and I get a check for $200, then I just ignore it all, because I don't even want to think about
just check out
what a ripoff that is.
Check out at that point. Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
But I know what you mean about I know what you mean about vinyl. About albums. And that's the great thing about vinyl coming back, because suddenly music is becoming an art form again. Albums are becoming an art form, not only with the artwork, which I love and I missed during the real digital age before vinyl came back, but also the concept of, yes, when you put a vinyl record on, it's more experimental or experiential, because you have to actually get up and turn the album over. I mean, that alone keeps you attached to what you're doing. It's a tangible way to be involved in someone else's art, where digitally it's just not the same. And that's why we embrace it, and that's why we do release a single once a month when we have an album coming out. And at the end of the year, we put out the vinyl record. We get to choose the order of the songs that we want to, put the order in. We want to take people on a roller coaster ride. We want to think about what's going to get them to turn the album over to side 2. How do you start side 2? These are all things that I loved when I was a kid, when I listened to vinyl.
That's so true. I mean, I totally miss that stuff. I love the fact that vinyl is just, it seems to be, it is making a comeback in somewhat of a way.
Well, it's also, I just read a couple months ago, it surpassed CD sales last year. So that's
incredible. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. And we see more and more, places opening up. I'm originally from Philadelphia. So, there was a studio in Philadelphia where they, a famous studio, they just opened their own, factory for that.
Nice.
Because they're trying to pivot themselves.
Well, there's a huge demand for it too, that the industry can't meet right now. And there's a year waiting list to get vinyl back. That means there's not enough vinyl manufacturers. It's a pretty good business to get into.
I love that. I love seeing that. So tell us, what's some of the future stuff you have coming out?
Well, we got a new album that's coming out, hopefully in the next 3 months. We're just wrapping it up now. We have played the songs live, and they're going over great. That's the priority right now. I just signed on with Ted Raimi. I don't know if you know Ted Raimi at all. He's a huge horror film guy. His brother Sam Raimi, of course, directed.
Oh, no, you're talking to Rachel right now. She is horror,
sci-fi, classic monster movies.
Well, you probably recognize his face. He's going to direct a video for our first single. So just right now, I'm just getting the money for that put together. So we're excited about the prospect of doing a horror video for a song, which is going to kind of a comedy horror, which is going to be super fun for us.
That's awesome.
So, but that's where the priority is.
And you have, there's a bunch of dates I see on your website. They're playing all over the place.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue, or are you going to continue?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there kind of an end to that tour to take a break to work on the new material? Just keep going as long as you can go.
We ride on the road. I mean, we are 100% in. When downtime and we got a day off, we usually get together and try to write something. We don't take much time off, and when I do take time off, I hang with the kids as much as possible. Yeah, so.
Wow. Well, families first.
Family first
that
for me,
is for sure.
For sure.
It really has to be. How about like musical styles? You think you're going to jump into any other musical styles in the future that you're like, you know what? I really want to put out a classical album. I really want to do something else.
I've got everything covered. I think that I enjoy doing. Like, for instance, doing the acoustic solo records. I can strip things down. Doing the cover records, I'm satisfying that side of me that wants to re-record some of these songs. And then doing my own stuff with the band, I still like to dip into the 70s sounds that I love so much, the finger picking stuff I love. I can cover all of that. If I were to go out and say, I want to make the Verve Pipe to make a reggae record, that's when I need to shut it all down.
we're going to look for that. We're going to see you with dreads on the cover, and I'm going to be like, what is going on?
Some sort of cultural misappropriation will happen, and nobody needs that.
Exactly. Are you, I have to ask this just from a personal thing, are you recording in big studios these days, or at home, where do you find yourself?
Our current studio, we're recording in Bay City, Michigan, basement studio, guy who's got fantastic equipment. Other than that, it's not nice. I do miss, that's the one thing I do miss about the big budget records and the record labels, where these fantastic spaces to just lounge in and have fun. Now it's a much more practical way to record because we're paying for it. As long as you have the good microphone and the good preamps and all this other great equipment, doesn't matter what the atmosphere is for the experience.
It sounds killer. You know what I mean? You're getting a great sound from it.
Yeah.
I do, me personally, I do miss that big room for drums because I'm a drummer. But you know what? At home, I have good mics and we set it up and it sounds great. And, but there is something to be said about that atmosphere from, I hate to say back in the day, because there's still big studios, working.
Yeah. But the issue as well is that when you're in that big studio and you have the comforts of that big studio, it's really easy to be distracted. And we can't afford distraction.
I think when you get the bill, you're also like, shit, I got the bill.
Exactly.
I'm paying for this,
Exactly right.
No, that's great. Well, this has been amazing. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping on this. Rachel, do you have anything else?
You're 1 second here, because
she's a couple friends.
Yeah, I do have
a
couple friends, but no, we got to leave some for the next time. Yeah, we can't cover it all. It's like you want to have a cliffhanger to the next album.
I love it. Well, I've enjoyed this immensely, you guys. Great conversation. Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody! Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. That was a great episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Great guests. We're super excited. Each week, we're going to bring you a new interview with cruise staff featuring entertainers, cruise chefs, cruise directors, bartenders, whoever we can find, as well as cruisers themselves to tell their individual stories. And we're going to have special guest celebrities. Theme cruises are super big, so we're going to be interviewing a bunch of people. But Rachel, tell them what they need to do to be notified each week.
What do you mean do? They should have did. So if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future episodes. And if you want to watch some of the previous episodes, the best place to do that is our website. And that is cruiseshipexplorers.com.
Okay, everybody, you heard it, cruiseshipexplorers.com. Join us each week. We're super excited. Till the next time, see you then.